I mean, typically PD in and of itself has always been you do the PD and you kind of go away, and that's sort of the end of it. And the research really is showing that with professional development, if we really want it to be sustained over a long period of time, and for teachers actually to implement what it is that we're talking about in the professional development, job-embedded coaching is a great way to kind of help sort of seal their knowledge. Just like with kids, we teach them and then we kind of have a follow-up to make sure they have it. With the same kind of thing when you're teaching teachers, they need to be able to hear that content, not just in that sit and get or from their chairs. You want to take them from their chairs to their classroom. And when you go into their classroom, it's really live with students within their room. They're seeing and applying the concept, whether they're learning a new reading strategy, a new math strategy, how to differentiate instruction. It's actually visually seen with students in their classroom versus any kind of footage or example. So a lot of teachers think when they go into the job-embedded coaching, it's a very valuable experience because it's beyond what anyone could really ever do within just a normal professional development day. When we do the job-embedded coaching, the principals just see the teachers ignite because they get so excited. I mean, they're excited when they go to a PD, but they're so excited to see it with real kids. And there's just sort of this buzz about, oh my gosh, I've learned this new concept. And in an age right now where teachers are beyond stressed out, the evaluation system, just culture in and of itself in most buildings with teachers and cuts, the morale is really down. But for some reason, when you do the job-embedded coaching, they get excited because it's at their level, and I think that's what's different about SDE's coaching, that we do customized coaching, that I'm not coming in and with an administrator and just we're going to do blanket coaching and everyone's going to get the same thing, that we're really going to take, just like we do with kids, take the needs of that teacher and figure out what is it that teacher needs more help with. And I really recommend that if you do a professional development, you don't want to go into a whole other 6 hours of more content, because now you're up to 12 hours of content. But let's go slow to go fast, and the idea would be to understand that content that was taught in that 6 hours, which a lot of times is a lot of information, and then let's see the application of it. Even if it's a 3-hour workshop, could you go in and then see what that looks like in a classroom so that teachers are deeply understanding the concepts, and then in turn, if you're just doing the professional development, less than 5% of it's going to get implemented, but research supports if you do the job-embedded coaching, the teacher now has heard about it, they've seen it, and in some of the job-embedded coaching, the coach is there and watches the teacher do it, and so now you have this follow through, and the pattern of the teacher repeating that is really likely because they have learned it hands-on. And so it's sort of that idea of you can learn by hearing it, but by doing it yourself, you really understand it, and it makes more sense within the scenario of your day-to-day life. So the benefits for an administrator, A, would be that they're going to see that professional development really take action in the classroom, because they're going to see them with kids. So that, the first part of that is they're going to see the actual thing they've learned being implemented, and B, they're going to end up seeing a change in student achievement and a change in the teaching that's going on, because they're going to have such a hands-on experience with it. So teachers overall have that real live look of what it looks like, and the depth of their understanding of that concept being taught is met because they really do understand it, and they understand, most importantly, the execution of it, not just the theory of it. They've gone from their chair, now we're going from my chair to my classroom, and I get the theory, I get the reason why I'm doing it, and I know how to put it into action when that coach leaves. And so whether it's you're talking about math and that teacher's been a very procedural teacher and is starting to learn how to go outside the box and be more, getting the child to have more of their own mathematical reasoning, that shift that's happening after they do the job-embedded coaching, the likelihood that teacher will replicate that lesson or pieces of that will come out to those students. So ultimately the students will have a better way of being able to learn the concepts that are being taught. Job-embedded coaching is a very popular thing, but a lot of times it's what's the logistics. So that's how's this going to work out? What's it going to look like for my staff? Many principals and administrators don't want their teachers out of the classroom. They want as many contact hours as possible. They're out for a lot of PD and a lot of different things throughout the school year. So how can you make job-embedded coaching be sustained throughout the school year? And so there's kind of two different options. Option A looks at one-on-one coaching, and the one-on-one coaching is where you can do about 5, maybe 6 teachers in one day in an individual building, so that the coach would come to the building. Prior to this, obviously, they've gotten a professional development of some sort. They come in and they do one-on-one coaching. coaching. So they would come in for about 45 minutes to an hour per teacher, and they would schedule that day out. So a lot of times with the coaching, we don't want to do it while they're gone at specials. We want them to be in the classroom. The coach would come to the classroom. A model lesson would be presented if that was what they picked in the customized choice. So they'd already be a predetermined topic that they have decided that's going to happen during that session. With this option, it's nice because you don't have to have a sub. The sub costs are a lot that a school district endures, and so you can just have either a floating sub if you choose to, or you could not, because ultimately that lesson could be modeled and the students can do something independently while the coach and the teacher do a reflection of some sort, and then they can kind of go on to the next classroom. So you can get, although this is a timely choice, as far as like the time, it's very intense, and so when you're one-on-one with a teacher, there's no escaping it. It's really powerful for them, and sometimes they need to understand that in this option, this is not evaluative. This is a really what I call a shoulder-to-shoulder experience, that we're going to experience your room through the same lens together and kind of make our way through. Coaching option B is called cluster coaching, and cluster coaching can be done in a variety of ways, whether you're doing your building individually or if you have a sister building. And so they're divided first into a 3-hour day, so that you would have maybe building A and building B might come over to one of the buildings, so a hosting building, and they would for 3 hours meet with just the kindergarten teachers. Then in the afternoon they would meet with just the first grade teachers, and they would be doing more of a group setting. So in this option, if you had 3 hours and you combined 2 sections together, 2 kindergarten classrooms or 2 fourth grade classrooms together, sections or buildings, they would maybe have up to 10 teachers at the most. You don't want to have more than 10 in a coaching, because then it just becomes kind of a mini PD and it just loses its, the authenticity of what you're looking for. This does require them to have a 3-hour sub. So if in the morning, they were going to do their coaching from 9 to 12, that sub would cover, they would release them for the afternoon, and the other grade level would come in. You can do with this option, I do a lot of Title I money sharing, where you could have a building combine their monies, and you could do combined coaching. And so this way you kind of get more people into the model lesson. It's definitely a larger group of teachers coming into that model lesson, which is a little bit less, it's kind of obtrusive a little bit to the classroom, but it's still about a 45-minute model lesson that's done, the reflection's done, but most importantly they're with their grade level groups when they come back. So you're kind of a mini PLC coming back and sharing what are your issues, what's the student that you have that might be like this, and it makes it really real for the teachers. The other option that you can kind of get more sessions in a time would be to do the cluster coaching in an 1.5-hour session. In that scenario, you could get through kindergarten, first, second grade, let's say in one day, and then the following day do third, fourth, and fifth. And so within this option, there's an 1.5-hour chunk that's set aside. You do have to have a floating sub for this, but it would be less because it would just be the number of teachers that are in that building. So if you pick the 1.5-hour grouping of cluster coaching, you really can't do that with 2 buildings because it doesn't work for subs, to float back and forth. So a lot of people that pick that 1.5-hour cluster coaching, it would just be within 1 building, versus if you picked the 3-hour, you could really do 2 buildings together. The nice thing about the coaching days is that it doesn't have to go around your professional development calendar. This is just sustained throughout the school year. So if you got your PD day in October, maybe you would have your coaching day in December. Some schools decide to do their presentation day, and that very next day they want to do the coaching. So it just depends on their funding and how you want to set the scenario up. But ultimately, it depends on which option you would pick for how many days would be involved. But a coaching day is not just one day. You really can't get to all the teachers that you need to, because it's really meant to be, more customized and really more of an intimate setting with that teacher, and really looking at the practices that they're using. And so I would highly recommend any professional development that you do, you follow it up with job-embedded coaching of some sort, whether it's a cluster coaching and you want to get more groupings in it, or if you want to intensify it and do it more on a one-on-one basis, but that it's a far better gains for the money that you're spending. And so if we're going to spend the money, why don't we make it really valuable for teachers and really make that money go as far as we can, that it's going to change the dynamics and what's going on in my building, and to create that sustained change over time.